Hi there, welcome back to Hydroponics Daily with me, Dr. Russell Sharp. Today I'm going to be talking about hybrid growing. Don't know if this is a term that's used routinely or if it's just a term I've invented, but this is where you grow a crop indoors in a grow room and you start them off there and then you move them out either into a greenhouse or into the field. And it's not used very often, but I think it should be used far more often for many different types of crops. So I did hybrid growing this year with great success, and I did tomatoes and chilies. So I started off my tomatoes far earlier than is recommended for a greenhouse crop in the UK because I was growing them in a grow room. I was growing Tigerella tomatoes, so the stripy ones, and these are now bearing fruit that is just ripening. So this would not be possible in the UK for months and months yet. Most people's tomatoes are still tiny little seedlings. And so I've got a much longer grow period. And this is not a crop that's just going to flower fruit then die. This is a plant that will keep on producing new flowers until I either cut off the developing stems, the new grow points, or the frost comes in the autumn. So I have now increased my growing season by at least 3 months by doing this. And the same, not so much for the chilies, because the chilies will probably have determinate growth, but I'm growing super hot chilies that probably wouldn't have ripened in time outdoors in the UK. Now I'm sure they will. And I can certainly get them growing, get them into bigger pots than I would have been able to otherwise. And so this is a fantastic technique that I think more growers should use. Certainly some of the standard hydroponic growers, if you're going to grow outdoors, you could start them off early. And certainly a lot of auto-flowering varieties and strains of certain crops, you could start them off in a grow room, and then you don't have to worry about, the cost of running the grow room for all those weeks of flowering. You can just stick them outside in a unheated greenhouse if you've got space and you've got the ability to do so, the location that suits. And I think hybrid growing is a much underutilized technique, certainly in the UK. There's also some research being done currently on this sort of area down where I used to work, down at East Malling Research Station in Kent in the UK, and they're looking at growing strawberry plants and propagating strawberry plants indoors. Now, indoor strawberries are notoriously difficult. It's the big, hope of hydroponics is that you could grow an economic strawberry crop. There's loads of research on growing profitable strawberries in vertical farms, but it's not been done really. It's only been done by a couple of companies, and even those are the really high-end sort of Asian strawberries that are gifted to people, not the strawberries that you would buy in a supermarket normally. So currently not profitable for strawberries to be grown indoors in grow rooms. However, the work in Kent is to look at whether you can propagate and produce young strawberry plants that could then go on and start their life earlier indoors. So Katja, and I'm not going to even pronounce her two surnames. She's from Greece. She's working at East Malling, and she's working with Mark Else, who's my former PhD supervisor. They're doing the research, and it's a big project. And I think that's a really good concept. I think more crops should be started like this. I think hops, for example, you could get really good virus-free plants that are started off a month or two early, and then you don't need to worry about the autumnal rains and things like this. You could get your vines growing early, but loads of crops could be started off early indoors and grown on. So if you think your crop could be done, then have a look at hybrid growing. If you want any advice, then let me know. So the key thing here is to make sure that your growing media is probably the same. So you couldn't do an NFT and then go into soil. It probably wouldn't work very well because you'd have to rip the roots out. So you probably have to look at potted plants for this, or certainly something that could be transplanted. But so it's certainly something to look at. That's been Hydroponics Daily for today, hybrid growing. And if you are moving your plants out to a grow room or from a grow room to a greenhouse, a polytunnel, or outside, be careful of transplant shock. If you're looking for a treatment that will help with transplant shock, then check out Utrema's seaweed extracts, humic acids. these sorts of biostimulants that will help with just reducing the stress levels on the plants and getting them established once you transplant them. Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.